Okay, let's take a look at question 15 from homework 7. What they're asking us is to find the first and second derivatives of a function. And the function that they've given us is f of x equals x squared plus 10 to the fifth. And that's x squared plus 10 in parentheses, all to the fifth power. And they're asking us for the first derivative, and then they're asking us for the second derivative. So we're going to have to find the first derivative first. And because we are raising a function to a power, we're going to have to use the chain rule. And if you recall, the chain rule just says bring down the exponent. So I'm bringing down the exponent. That was a 5. Then copy exactly what's inside the parentheses. So I'm just copying exactly what was inside the parentheses. And then lower the exponent, just like you would if you were doing the power rule on x. If you were raising x to the fourth, or x to the fifth, you would just bring down the 5 and then lower the exponent 1. You're doing the same thing here, bringing down the 5, keeping the inside the same, and lowering the exponent. And then don't forget, it's very easy to forget this step, you also need to multiply by the derivative of what's inside the parentheses. So in this case, the derivative of x squared is 2x. The derivative of 10 is a constant. The derivative of a constant is always 0, so that just leaves us with the 2x. Now, in the past homeworks, I've told you once you get to this step, just leave it. Don't work on it any further. Just plug it in exactly like that into WebAssign. And that's not going to be as beneficial for you anymore. So we're going to need to simplify these. Fortunately, it's not that difficult to simplify. All I'm going to do is multiply that 2x times the 5, and that's going to give me 10x times x squared plus 10 to the fourth. And that is what I'm going to put in for the first blank, where they're asking for f prime of x. And the reason that I do this is because it's going to make my life a whole lot easier when I have to find the second derivative. I don't have all kinds of terms floating around that I need to multiply by. I have everything in nice, tiny, neat pieces. So we need to find the second derivative now. So we look at the first derivative, what we just found, and we just take the derivative of that. It's as simple as that. You take a derivative, and then for the second derivative, you take another derivative. So we're going to do that. And I'll change colors here so we can see we're working on something different. Let's see. Have to find a good color. We'll go with pink. Okay, so for f double prime of x, we're just going to take the derivative. This is just the derivative. I have no idea if you can see that on the paper. Yep, looks like it. Derivative of f prime of x. That's all we're doing here. Okay? I'm going to look at f prime of x, and I see I've got a function here, and I've got a function here. I'm multiplying two functions together. I need to use the product rule. So the product rule tells me I need the first function, so that's 10x, times the derivative of the second function. Well, the second function looks like I'm going to have to chain rule it again. Not a big deal. We can do that. So I bring down the exponent, copy exactly what's inside the parentheses, lower the exponent, and multiply times the derivative of the inside. That's going to be 2x. Okay? So this is first times the derivative of the second, plus the second, that's x squared plus 10 to the fourth. I'm just taking the second function, times the derivative of the first. Well, what's the derivative of 10x? That's 10. Okay? So that gives us f double prime of x. The good news here is you don't have to simplify this one. If you had to take a third derivative, I would say simplify. But right now, since we only have to stop at the second derivative, WebAssign will take this answer, so go ahead and stop there. So let's go over this one more time because there are a lot of different things going on here, and I want to make sure you understand them all. We start with a function. They give us this function. It is a function raised to a power, so we have to use the chain rule to find the first derivative. So we use the chain rule, we bring down the exponent, copy exactly what's inside the parentheses, lower the exponent, and then take the derivative of what's inside the parentheses. So that gave us this here. And because we knew we had to take a second derivative, instead of having lots of different terms, we simplified as much as we could by multiplying the 2x times the 5. and that gave us 10x times x squared plus 10 to the fourth. So to find the second derivative, we just have to take the derivative of what we found here. Now, instead of just having the chain rule like we did here, we've actually got a function times a function, so we've got the product rule. That means we take the first function times the derivative of the second function, which we found using the chain rule, and then we add the second function, just copy it straight down just the way it was up here, and we multiply that times the derivative of the first function. And because we don't have to go any further, don't bother to simplify. Don't bother to simplify. Just plug it in exactly the way it is into WebAssign, and you should be fine. If you've got any questions, shoot me an email, and hopefully this gets to you in time to help you out with your homework before it's due.